Part 23. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletinjian. Chapter 221. Hearing this, Xieting's eyes inexplicably turned red. He dragged the emperor to the chair, and then leaned against the emperor and acted like a spoiled child. Brother Crown Prince, I really promise this time that I will never leave the capital again, and I will stay with my mother and you. If I don't keep my word this time, then call me God. Before he finished speaking, he was stopped by the emperor. The emperor looked at his brother who spoke without thinking and said helplessly, I know that no matter where Zuzur is, she will come back, to the palace, to me. It was like the war had just ended not long ago, and his brother had already appeared in the capital. Even though some officials thought Zuzur was presumptuous, for the emperor, when he saw Xietingzhou, he already understood what Zuzur meant. Whether it was the general guarding the country, the military token, or 300,000 soldiers, for Zuzur, they were all the most useless things in the world. Father, please don't blame the emperor's uncle. After the battle, the emperor's uncle worked non-stop to see you as soon as possible. Xiejiao's words were not true, but it was true that he drove all day, and he did not rest in Bianliao city after the battle, and went straight to the capital. If there is anyone in the world who can do such a thing, I am afraid that only the emperor's uncle can do this, right? I know everything. How could the emperor not know? The border is so far away from the capital. Zuzur appeared in Kyoto just after winning the battle. How could she come back if she didn't work non-stop? Zuzur made great contributions in this battle against the Huns. I am willing to give you whatever you want. Just like when she was a child, Zuzur said that he could give everything he had to the prince brother. Now, the emperor is not afraid. If Zuzur wants the great Yang dynasty, he will definitely be a good emperor. Even if there is really such an idea, the prince and others can't help but follow it. After all, not everyone can make such a long-lasting achievement. The Queen Mother and the Empress both looked at Xietingzhou, not knowing what they were thinking, but for these two women, the two men in front of them were the most important people in their lives. No matter what, they treated them equally. Then I won't be polite. Xietingzhou changed his face immediately after hearing this, and deliberately said mysteriously, I want the most precious thing in the world. As soon as this was said, everyone was thinking about what the most precious thing in the world was. Is it the Supreme Emperor? Or the picturesque landscape? Or something else? As a result, the next moment, Xietingzhou's voice was heard. I want my mother to be healthy, I want my prince brother to be happy forever, to become the most powerful emperor in the history of the great Yang dynasty. I want the great Yang dynasty to become a prosperous era. I want to be Zuzur, the favorite of my sister-in-law forever. I want to be the Anil king who was conferred by my father when he was 1 year old, and live a life of wealth and happiness. This is Xietingzhou's life plan after destroying the Xiongnu. After all, the work that should be done has been done, and now it's time to rest, right? It is also very tiring to shuttle back and forth to do various things. After saying this, everyone present was stunned. After an unknown amount of time, the Queen Mother laughed, her eyes red, and she held the Queen's hand and laughed. Zuzur still hasn't grown up. Why do you always want to hide behind your sister-in-law? The Queen was really happy. Zuzur remembered all her kindness to her. How could she not be happy? The emperor laughed with red eyes, looking at his brother who also had red eyes in front of him, and handed over his handkerchief as if he was a child. Zuzur, you have known how to manipulate me since you were a child. Even now, I can't do anything to you. After a lot of laughter, it was a real family reunion. Oh, no, Xietingzhou heard from his brother, the prince, that the children in the family had all left. That's right. They all went to the border. When Xietingzhou came back this time, in addition to bringing Xiejiao back, Xie and Xie stayed at the border to handle the follow-up matters. The Crown Prince Xie and the second Prince Xie were also sent out to various places. This time they were responsible for handling the matters on the grassland. The emperor had never left Kyoto in his life. After seeing the grassland, he had such an idea and wanted his son to go out for exercise. Xie Tingzhou supported this very much. Although the children were not at home, he could lie down. In the evening, he watched the video with the Empress Dowager, the Emperor and the Queen, and boasted about his strategy on the battlefield, so that the few people who really saw the battlefield felt the unprecedented sense of urgency on the battlefield. On a new day, the court was still in a mess. After all, you can't expect the ministers to have the same ideas in their memorials every day. Parties, self-interest, and some officials who really work for the people fighting each other are what the emperor needs to see every day. As the emperor of the Yang dynasty, after ascending the throne, the emperor spent every day like this, starting with the morning court, having lunch after the court was dismissed at noon, resting for an hour and then going to strengthen his body, reading memorials from the afternoon until late at night. It has always been like this. But today is different. The court officials below are still noisy, and the emperor is still very happy. Your Majesty, I think that since King Anil has taken over the grassland, and your Majesty has sent the prince to the border to deal with grassland affairs, it is better to summon King Anil back to the capital and reward him generously. This is the method that everyone finally agreed on. In order to prevent King Anil from raising troops on the frontier, the best method is to let the emperor bring King Anil back first. As for whether to let King Anil leave the capital later, as long as he is here, what is there to be afraid of? This conclusion is also the final method given after everyone saw that the emperor defended King Anil in every possible way. This will also not hurt the emperor and the brotherhood. As a result, the emperor on the dragon throne laughed when he heard this, and he seemed to be very happy. Today, I originally wanted to tell you something, but I didn't expect that you and I thought of the same thing. As soon as these words came out, the officials present were a little confused. What did they think of the same thing? As a result, the next moment, the emperor's companion spoke. Summon the general of the state, King Anil, to the palace. Then King Anil, who was supposed to be on the frontier, has actually returned to Kyoto. A young man in a red brocade robe walked in. He didn't look like a general who slaughtered millions of Huns on the battlefield. Instead, he looked like a delicate girl who grew up in wealth and splendor. He still had a fair and tender face. It was hard to imagine that such a person could annihilate all the Huns. Some people also discovered the brocade robe on King Anil. The red brocade robe was the top silk offered by Jiangnan this year. The embroidery on it was a golden four-clawed golden dragon. It was even more dazzling when it was coiled on the red brocade robe, and it was even more gorgeous when it was surrounded by flowers. Only the embroiderers in the palace could do this golden dragon embroidery, and this red and gold silk brocade was specially offered to the emperor, so it was self-evident who let the clothes wear it. I, your humble servant, greet my brother. May my brother be safe. Xie Tingzhou didn't have to kneel to the emperor. After he finished speaking, he stood there and the emperor laughed. Didn't the ministers just ask me to summon Prince Anil back to the capital? Isn't Prince Anil back now? Ah, this. Can returning to the capital privately be the same as being summoned back by you? And seeing that the two brothers had no doubts or suspicions about this battle, the officials in the court were speechless for a moment, and felt that we had all kinds of doubts and suspicions for the sake of your Majesty's kingdom, but in the end you brothers were happy and the clowns turned out to be us. However, although I thought so in my heart, at this moment, seeing that the Emperor and Prince Anil have such a close relationship, it is also the luck of the great Yang dynasty. The great Yang dynasty got a war god like Prince Anil, and was not suspected by the Emperor. Seeing that Prince Anil did not lead a single soldier back to the capital, it was enough to prove that Prince Anil had no intention of being disloyal. This was actually the best result. So then the emperor and Xie heard all kinds of praises from the civil and military officials, such as the first person in the history, the god general. Anyway, they felt embarrassed to be praised by you. After some praise, Xie took out the military token. This time when I return to the capital, I will not leave the capital again. I plan to live in Zhaoyang Palace with my mother for the rest of her life. My brother, the military token will be returned today. From today on, I will be a rich and idle person who needs my brother's care. Xie said that he would retire and even handed in the military token, which shocked the ministers present. Although I don't know what the two brothers discussed before, how happy it is for a person to be able to achieve his own ambitions and complete his own career. King Anil has reached the peak, and it can even be said that he is just one step away from being above 10,000 people. But his choice is to live in the palace and put himself under the emperor's eyes, which makes many officials think that the emperor is awesome. You can easily take down this kind of war god, brother. After this incident, I am afraid that no one in the entire Daong dynasty dares to restrict the emperor in any way. The emperor accepted the military token, and then gave Xie, his younger brother, a lot of treasures. Of course, even the emperor's private treasury, Xie could take whatever he wanted. After this day, people in the court praised the righteousness of King Anil, and the people spread the brotherhood between the emperor and King Anil. Xie had a good rest in Zhaoyang Palace. Whether it was the queen mother, sister-in-law, or even the emperor, the rewards flowed into Xieting's Zhaoyang Palace. After returning for a month, Xie secretly took the queen mother out of the palace to play. The queen mother had not left the palace for many years. She didn't expect that she would do such a rebellious thing with her son when she was old. She thought that if the eldest son blamed her, the younger son would take the blame, so she followed him out. In July, the capital city was full of lanterns at night. Although the weather was hot, everything was bustling. Xie saw a shop selling longevity cakes with the Queen Mother's auspicious words written on them. The Queen Mother also looked at the scenery of the capital city after a long time. After seeing that the people were safe and there were laughter and joy everywhere, she was also in a good mood. Xie was very happy to pull his mother through the streets of the capital city. The great Yang dynasty should be like this, prosperous, thriving, and forever powerful. This should be the great Yang dynasty in his memory. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin. Chapter 222. The emperor has been very busy recently. To be precise, the entire Yang dynasty has been very busy. Suddenly, a large territory like the grassland has been added. The places that once belonged to the Huns have become his own. Naturally, he has to arrange and divide the new territory area, and then manage it in shards. Although the grassland is different from the central plains and cannot grow some food, the grassland is vast and sparsely populated, and can be used to raise many animals, such as cattle, horses, sheep, etc. Anyway, for the great Yang dynasty, if they control the grassland, they can. It is equivalent to being able to raise a large number of cavalry in the future. Xieting's battle strategy is not advisable because he has plug-ins. Therefore, when Xie came back, all motorcycles and Gatling fireworks had been destroyed, so even in the future, such an attack method may not be used. In fact, Xie knew about fireworks and sex, but he never said it, and the emperor didn't ask. Sometimes, the two brothers still had a very tacit understanding. Xie took the queen mother out of the palace to play secretly at first, but later found out that the prince's brother didn't seem to know, so he became even more arrogant and brought his sister-in-law out with him. They didn't go too far, and just wandered in the market outside the palace. There were not many restrictions on women in the Yang dynasty. Various women were often seen on the streets, some doing business and some shopping. The queen mother and the queen were somewhat self-restrained at first, but later they got used to following Xietingzhou. Xietingzhou even secretly took the two of them back to their mother's house to see their former bedrooms. For a woman who got married at this time, it was really incredible to be able to return to the bedroom that once belonged to her boudoir. So when Xietingzhou secretly returned to the palace with the queen mother and the queen, he was caught by the emperor. Zuzwer. I think you are too free. You dare to take your mother out of the palace with the queen. What if there is an assassin? He said this, but in fact Xietingzhou's every move was within the emperor's sight. After all, it was necessary to protect his mother and wife. As for his younger brother, he had a master like Xie by his side, so there was no need to worry. Just to prevent my brother from going crazy while playing outside, he still needs to be educated. Brother Prince, how can you say that to me? I am filial to my mother. My mother has not been home for a long time. Why can't I go out? And my sister-in-law, I have helped you take care of things for so many years after marrying you. Come home and see what's going on. I married you, not sold it to you. Anyway, Xietingzhou took it for granted, so he knew one more thing and changed the topic directly. Besides, Brother Prince, I don't agree with the marriage between the prince and his cousin. How can this be possible? Xietingzhou usually doesn't care about such trivial matters, but this time he went to his sister-in-law's house, and then he found out that the emperor actually wanted to marry someone from his sister-in-law's family to the prince. This is absolutely not okay. Why don't you agree to this? The prince is willing in his heart. It's not that I have to let him marry his cousin. Knowing that his younger brother was in free love in another world, the emperor had to explain to his younger brother. After all, he was not the kind of bad father who forced his son to do anything. The queen mother and the queen were also frowning at this time, as if they had learned some news, which made them both feel very depressed. Brother Imperial, I have been back for so long that I have forgotten that after research in our world, it is best not for people with the same surname to intermarry within 6 generations. If there is intermarriage, because the blood is too close, children will be born. Deformed children, or children with no symptoms, or even highly hereditary diseases. Seeing that his brother, the prince, no longer blamed himself, Xietingzhou hurriedly told the story. He was shocked when he found out about it. Fortunately, the matter had not been made public, otherwise what would he do then? What if the child is born with a hereditary disease or deformity? The queen mother and the queen were also very surprised, but they thought of some family secrets. They didn't think it was a problem before, but now they are horrified when they think about it. Speaking of intermarriage with the same surname, in fact, it is more likely to happen between officials and businessmen in most cases, but it is rare in aristocratic families. After all, the noble daughters and sons of aristocratic families are each a resource, and naturally they have to marry into different families. If the children born to a married daughter go back further, wouldn't it mean that the water flows downward? Of course, there are also those who marry into high positions and end up doing favors to their natal family, so when something happens, everyone tacitly agrees to hide it. Is this happening? The emperor was also extremely shocked, and then Xietingzhou continued. Of course, so brother prince, you must do more research and prohibit intermarriage within 6 generations, otherwise many people will die. Also, I found that the marriageable age in our great Yang dynasty is 15 years old, but medical research shows that, the mortality rate of a 15-year-old woman after giving birth to a child is very high, reaching almost half the chance. However, if she officially becomes an adult and gives birth after the age of 20, she will be more likely to survive. The emperor listened to this carefully and believed that what his brother said was also based on his experience in another world. Isn't it just to postpone a woman's childbearing age by 5 years? Now that there is no foreign invasion, even 5 years will be fine. After that, Xietingzhou had no time to spare. The emperor gave him a new task, but he was able to investigate these two things. A month later, the information came out. In addition to being infertile, intermarriage among relatives also resulted in many deformed children. Those children were drowned when they were born, and no one knew about it. Therefore, for so many years, people still intermarried with the same surname. Another thing is the mortality rate of women under the age of 15. The mortality rate in the Yang dynasty was extremely high. As for the children of noble families, they all knew that women had to be older to give birth safely. In the early days, they all stuffed maids into their husbands, which made ordinary people suffer. Many women died in childbirth. After that, the emperor issued a new decree. The Yang dynasty prohibited intermarriage within 6 generations of blood relatives, redefined the marriage age for women, and disclosed these death data to all the people. Hearing that it was the war god Anil Wang who personally investigated the big data, the people naturally believed it very much. If their daughters were about to reach the age of marriage, they would quickly cancel the marriage or delay the marriage. If their daughters were pregnant, they could only cry. Even those who married with the same surname, many people cancelled the marriage and divorced. After doing all this, Xieting Zhou became a salted fish again. It was almost October, and it was time for the new year in the modern world. Xieting Zhou told his mother, the prince, and others that he wanted to go back to reunite with his parents in another world and get married. This was supported by everyone, and then they gave him a lot of good things. Xieting Zhou stored these good things in the system warehouse. Now the system warehouse has more than 300 square meters and can store a lot of things. He returned to the modern world and sold a lot of good things in half a month. In a blink of an eye, he had about 3 billion in his hands. Don't underestimate the consumption level of the rich. Xieting Zhou didn't have much pursuit. After he had money, he discussed with Wei Qiang to go back to his hometown. Let's go home and pick up my parents, and then we'll get married, okay? Xieting Zhou held Wei Qiang's hand. Every time he came back from Daong dynasty, Xieting Zhou always gave Wei Qiang a lot of things. Wei Qiang believed that these were sent by the so-called godmother at first, but later found that these things were very precious, and then she knew that her boyfriend had a secret, but this secret could not be spoken. Once she tried to ask, but found that she couldn't hear her boyfriend's voice at all, as if something in the dark prevented it all. When she saw Xieting Zhou's smile, she understood that this matter could not be explained, but at least she could be sure that these were things that were obtained without breaking the law. Now she is the boss of a large company. Although she is engaged in wholesale business and timber export, Wei Qiang has also made a lot of progress. She did not pursue her boyfriend's secret, knowing that no matter what the secret was, they would be together forever. In December, in fact, many workers should have returned home one after another. This year, the Xie family couple thought that Xieting Zhou and Wei Qiang would wait until the new year to come back. After all, every time they called, they were very busy at work. Unexpectedly, the two had not yet returned home, but all kinds of express delivery arrived at home since the beginning of December, all kinds of delicious food, such as ginseng bird's nest, deer antler cordyceps, and whatever was expensive was sent over, which made Xie's parents stunned. After receiving express deliveries for half a month, when Xie's father went out to take out the garbage, he saw a Mercedes worth several million parked in the parking space of his community. As a man, he naturally looked at it for a few more times, and then he saw his son getting off from it. Then there was the red Ferrari next to it, and his daughter Wei Qiang got off from it. Dad. I'm back. Dad. We're back. The two were still holding things in their hands, and Xie's father was dragged home by the two with a bewildered look on his face. Only then did he accept that his child actually drove a luxury car back. Xie's mother had been very nervous about the various things Xieting Zhou and Wei Qiang sent back, and she was also very shocked to know that the two drove a luxury car back. Xieting Zhou told the story of his godmother and his elder brother and sister-in-law, and Wei Qiang helped him on the side, and even took out the video recorded by the Empress Dowager and the Emperor and Empress. Although they were wearing ancient costumes, Xie's parents were still very happy and grateful. After learning that Wei Qiang now opened a big company and his son was also working for this boss, he was so happy. This year is destined to be lively. The Xie family welcomed all kinds of relatives and gave many gifts. Xieting Zhou and Wei Qiang have made progress, so naturally they can't help but pull in relatives and friends. After the new year, Xieting Zhou proposed that the Xie family and his wife go to live in Shangjing City. The two were reluctant at first, after all, they had their own jobs, but after hearing that Wei Qiang's big company was too busy and her son was also very busy, and the big villa in Shangjing City was unattended, and it would cost tens of thousands of management fees a month, the two immediately said that they should quit their jobs. In the end, the Xie family went to Shangjing City. It was the first time for the Xie family to spend the new year in the villa with parents and lovers around. Xieting Zhou's modern life is so happy. He cherishes and likes his current life. After the new year, Xieting Zhou brought the massage chair prepared by his parents to Daong dynasty, and also brought the New Year wishes of his parents and Wei Qiang. The Queen Mother and the Emperor and Queen were naturally very happy. They all tried the massage chair. In the end, one massage chair was even placed in the imperial study, which can be said to have become the Emperor's new favorite. Xieting Zhou spent the rest of his life traveling between the modern times and the great Yang dynasty. He did a lot of things and enjoyed life, and he lived up to everyone's expectations. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 223. Recently, a historical forum has been very lively. It even became a hot search topic due to its sharp scolding. This has to mention the recently completed TV series The Legend of King Anil. When talking about the three words Wang Anil, in more than 1,000 years of historical research, there is only one person worthy of the name King Anil. There is no doubt that this person is Xieting Zhou, the younger brother of Emperor Xie Guanyu of the Great Yang dynasty. He also has a name that is even more widely known to the public, Zhu. The origin of this is not simple. It is said that before the queen was pregnant, the late emperor dreamed of a divine bird coming with beads in its mouth. After the fetal dream, the baby was born, King Anil, who was given the nickname Zuzwar. He also had a long-lasting life of 5,000 people. In the history of the year, he is the only legend who was crowned king at 1 year old. And everything that happened to this person was so bizarre that it was comparable to the fictional protagonists on some novel websites. It can be said that since the development of online historical literature, the prosperity of the Yang dynasty has become the favorite dynasty for authors. Whenever a time traveler, he has to travel back and become King Anil every minute, and then enjoy the emperor's favor. Enjoying the glory and wealth. Of course, there are also stories about time-traveling girls marrying King Anil. After all, King Anil does not have a princess in historical records, which is more suitable for everyone to play. In the past, these novels were just niche entertainment and no one could care about it. However, the recent broadcast of The Legend of King Anil directly caused a stir among students studying history. After all, there are still many people who study the history of King Anil. So the forum was very lively at this time, with tens of thousands of people piled up in one building. Explosion. Legend of King Anil, get out of here, is this why you slander the god of war in history? Reported, thank you. After clicking in, Lazu was very angry. 1L, have you watched the recently aired Legend of King Anil? I don't know which website I bought the article from, but the photo was a piece of shit. It doesn't matter that King Anil is a time traveler. Are you the director? Touch your conscience. What are you filming? Is it a plot that normal people can watch? My eyes. When I look at it, I feel like I'm blind. Comments quickly filled up below. 2L, I haven't watched it yet. Can anyone tell me what this TV series is about? I'm tired of reading so many novels. 3L, ha ha ha, Lazu is talking about the recently aired National Idol drama, ha 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 ha. The Emperor was played by the same age as the actor who played King Anil. Just asking, are you afraid? 4L, forget about dewdrops, I thought it was quite funny before. After watching 2 episodes, I was shocked at the beginning. It doesn't matter that King Anil looks like a sissy, the key is that he is still defenseless, ha ha ha, don't you think this is funny? 5L, this is the first time I know that Xiaoyi is actually a Jianghu assassin. He was injured while walking on the roadside. After being rescued by King Anil, he followed him. Ha 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 ha, this is the funniest joke in the world, right? Who doesn't know that Xiaoyi has been with King Anil since the beginning? This is the ultimate servant of King Anil. 6L, I can tell you on the second floor, don't watch this TV series. Don't sacrifice ratings. 7L, I am the poster on the second floor. Let me tell you, this TV series plays an ordinary sissy who travels through King Anil, so forget it. If he is long Aotian, I will tolerate it, but when he goes, he will become a heartthrob. Made. Mud. Mad mad mad. 8L, did the poster vomit blood? I also vomited blood when I saw the actor who played the Emperor looking at King Anil with great affection, so I asked you if you are afraid. 9L. What are you talking about? What TV show? 10L, 9th floor, I can tell you that a time traveler pretended to be King Anil, and then conquered Xiaoyi with his beauty along the way. On the way, he accepted the licking dog Shui Baokeng. After arriving in the capital, a fake father and son came to entangle him. Made Prince Anil fall in love with him at first sight. After finally meeting the Emperor looked at King Anil affectionately, and the Queen looked at King Anil affectionately. Anyway, everyone in the Great Yang dynasty fell in love with King Anil as soon as they saw his face. He. 11L, is what you said upstairs true? I'm going to vomit. 12L, my god of war, my great general who governs the country, has the spread of soft, stupid, and beauties reached this point now? 13L, let me go. Am I the only one who knows that, not to mention the 16-year age difference between the Emperor and Anil Wang brothers? When Anil Wang was first born, the Emperor was still the prince, and the prince and princess took Anil King hand in hand, almost like their own sons. What's going on? In the blink of an eye, the Emperor and the Queen fell in love with King Anil at the same time. Why don't you go to heaven? 14L, ridiculous. It's just outrageous. Isn't there anyone in this building who follows dramas? I endured the pain of vomiting blood and chased all the way down, not knowing how outrageous it could be. 15L, it's not the most outrageous, only more outrageous. I've followed episode 15. Not to mention that Shui Baokeng became King Anil's licking dog. Shui Baokeng's sister Shuijiu also became King Anil's licking dog, and the prince. The second prince, the third prince, and even the 10-year-old little Lolita Xiejiao have fallen deeply in love with the godlike King Anil. 16L, to be honest, there has always been a saying in our forum that the King Anil who was later found by the Emperor was not the King Anil who was a child at all. Why did he dare to write random words in the TV series? 17L, 16th floor, I still think that Prince Anil is definitely not Zuzwar who was born that year, but you said that it is not true, the Emperor is really good to Prince Anil. Before Prince Anil came back to life, he crushed the original imperial concubine's family to dust, and even adopted his son to Prince Anil, and planned to move Prince Anil's tomb to the imperial mausoleum. Is this not love? 18L, History's preference is very straightforward, okay. When Prince Anil died of poisoning at the age of 5, the late emperor was heartbroken, the prince covered his face with sorrow, the princess fainted, and the queen's hair turned white overnight. Doesn't this prove the status of Prince Anil? 19L, but above, you are talking about the former Prince Anil. After Prince Anil returned to the palace, there was not even a blood test to confirm his identity. How did the emperor and the queen mother of the palace confirm his identity? 20L, the history books are very strange about this point. They say that the emperor recognized the identity of King Anil when he saw him playing the flute, which was a childhood music. The queen mother was even more strange. The queen mother and the queen recognized King Anil after they only saw him as an adult. According to the history books, King Anil and the emperor were cut from the same mold when they were young. 21L, so what are the TV series being filmed now? I have tried poison for everyone. Anyway, as long as they have a name and surname, they will fall in love with King Anil in the end. Do you think they fell in love with King Anil's ability? No, no, no. They fell in love with King Anil's face. 22L, there is also a blood test in this stupid TV series, ha ha ha. Damn it. The history books do not record the blood test, but they recognized King Anil's identity as soon as they met. 231L, but then again, King Anil was able to destroy millions of Xiongnu on the grassland. How can he be a person with only a face? He is extremely fierce, okay. The grassland was just his earliest battle record. Don't you know what he did later, even though he stayed in the palace obediently for a while? 242L, in the 28th year of the Yang dynasty, he completely wiped out the Xiongnu, recovered the grassland, led 30,000 elite soldiers, and killed millions of enemies. It is said that the water on the grassland was red at that time. Such a fierce man would only fall in love with everyone who appeared in the TV series. 254L, ha ha ha. Let me popularize it for you. How many things did King Anil do that made the emperor angry and want to scold him? Not to mention that he secretly went to the grassland in the 28th year of the Yang dynasty. In the 31st year of the Yang dynasty, a small country around came to pay tribute and asked to marry the princess. As a result, King Anil was furious and took the princess with 3,000 elite soldiers to defeat the small country. The small country had 100,000 troops at that time, and the people should have millions. In the end, they all surrendered. The small country was finally named after the princess's fiefdom. 3,000 against 100,000, just ask you if you are fierce? 266L, if the above person said this, I would not be sleeping. In the 34th year of the Yang dynasty, a small country was cunning and causing trouble on the border. As a result, it fell into the hands of Anil Wang's son Siejinyu. Anil Wang secretly left Beijing and led 10,000 elite soldiers to directly destroy the small country. He brought all the royal family members of that country to the Yang dynasty, and made the royal family members dance for the emperor, and then killed them after the dance. 279L, wait, isn't this a TV series post? Is anyone still watching TV? Where is the plot going? 5170L, the TV series is over, let me laugh ha 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 ha. I actually finished watching it, I'm so awesome. 5171L, the brother above is awesome, I couldn't hold on, can you tell me the ending? 5172L, this TV series is amazing. King Anil went to war against the Xiongnu not for national revenge, but because he found that everyone in the palace loved him. He didn't know how to choose, so he fled to the border under such circumstances. He happened to encounter the invasion of the Xiongnu, so he turned his anger into fighting power in anger. He summoned thunder to destroy the Xiongnu. 5173L, I forgot to add above. There are many Chanyu who think that King Anil is a god who has descended to the earth when they see him, and they kneel down. 5174L, Ao 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 ao, I vomited. The later King Anil went to war every time because the people of the small country over there fell in love with him, ha 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 ha. No one asked to marry the princess, but asked to marry King Anil. Director, can you die? 5175L, haha, I made it to the end. In the end, King Anil lived in his own bedroom, but he was reluctant to leave everyone and loved them all. Ha 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 ha, you are a humming director. You can shoot, why don't you go to heaven? 24578L, good news, good news. Comrades. The legend of King Anil has been banned on the entire internet, ha 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 ha. 24579L, great news, I can finally continue my studies with peace of mind. The record of the future is still going on, and the legend of King Anil will also be reenacted in different ways, but the preference of history has long been recorded in history books, and everyone knows it. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Jonghu Buletinjian. Chapter 224. Today, the Yongzhou Avenue police station is not peaceful. Just outside the police station, a wet body was placed at the door of the police station, and then there was a deafening cry. The voices of men and women crying and wailing were so sad that anyone who heard them would cry. In the police hall, in addition to the police who were handling their work, 3 trainee police officers who had just entered the Yongzhou Avenue police station this year were standing at the window looking out. How pitiful, that child is only 16 years old. The speaker was the female police officer Long Liun. Just by hearing this name, you can tell that her family has high expectations for her. Long Liun is also a police family. Her grandfather was a policeman, her father was a policeman, and later her grandfather retired due to illness. Her father was heroically martyred in a bank robbery. After that, Long Liun took the police academy exam and now has taken her father's police number. But what's the use of this? Not everyone in this world has a conscience. This child clearly jumped into the water to save someone, and he died after saving someone. In the end, he didn't even get the title of a righteous act. There were not many people by the river at that time. The family of the rescued person did not admit that the child went into the river to save people. They insisted that he went down by himself. Who can know the truth? The policeman who spoke was called Guo Ran, also a trainee police officer. He was also a student from a serious police academy, so his eyes were red when he spoke at this time. Because the crime scene, Hongqiao Park, was relatively close to the police station on Yongzhou Avenue, the police arrived at the scene as soon as they called the police, but no one was there. They went to investigate only because of the death. A 16-year-old boy at the scene lost his breath and lost his life forever, while another 8-year-old boy was held by his mother, wet all over. After asking, it was learned that both of them fell into the water, and then the boy's family rescued the boy, but when they rescued the 16-year-old boy, they failed to save him and he died. Later, the family of the deceased was contacted by phone. As a result, the family of the deceased said that the deceased could swim, and his relatives had a swimming pool, so it was impossible for him to swim in the river. Therefore, the family of the deceased believed that the deceased must have seen the 8-year-old boy fall into the water and died in order to save the boy. The family of the little boy refused to admit this, saying that they only saved their own son and could not save the deceased because they could not swim. In fact, the police who went to the scene at that time could judge from the clothes of these people and the situation at the scene that the 16-year-old child must have gone into the water to save people, and the family of the 8-year-old boy was dry except for the wet trouser legs, which did not match their statement that they wanted to save their 8-year-old son and 16-year-old boy. But there was no way. The police searched all the surveillance cameras nearby, but that place happened to be in the blind spot of the surveillance, and there was no one at the scene at that time, so they didn't know what happened at all. This incident became an unsolved case. In addition to pitying the tragic death of the child, people also felt sorry for the child's parents. But it is just such a simple case. In the testimony of the 8-year-old boy's parents, the deceased deliberately swam to death, not to save people, which is unacceptable to the family of the deceased. They put the body of the deceased in front of the police station, hoping that the police can investigate the truth and give their son justice. But this kind of thing, unless they change their words, no one can tell what happened. Now the police station pities the parents, but they have investigated everything they can, and the Ding family refuses to admit that the deceased saved people. There is nothing they can do. So sometimes we can't say that modern people are indifferent, mainly because sometimes some people have no conscience. Xieting Zhou stood in front of the window, looking at the couple kneeling and crying in front of the body with an expressionless face. Not only them, but also the grandparents and grandparents of the child were kneeling there. It was almost noon, and the sun outside was so strong that people could get heat stroke if they stood outside for an hour, but now these people were kneeling there, just asking for justice for the child. Tingzhou, how do you think this matter can be resolved? Guo Ran was naturally uncomfortable, but he had heard from his master before that there was no surveillance and no strong evidence that the deceased saved people. How could he prove that the deceased saved people? The family members of the deceased kneeled there, just wanting to be a hero and want their son to die without being aggrieved, but that family was conscienceless and refused to admit that the deceased saved people, which made people feel that they were ruthless. Don't ask them why these policemen are so sure that the deceased must have saved people, because at the scene, they had questioned the rescued Mao family, and then questioned them again at the police station. The family did not admit it, but their eyes were wandering, and everyone was in a panic. Not to mention that people who have been veteran police officers for decades can see that they are lying, even several trainee police officers who have been interns for less than a year can see it. The Mao family lied, and the deceased died while saving people, but was eventually slandered as playing in the water. It is really shocking to get rid of this relationship. Hearing this, Xieting Zhou raised his lips and turned to look at Guo Ran. Of course there is a way to make the family admit that it was the deceased who saved people. Guo Ran's eyes lit up, and Long Liuyun also looked at Xieting Zhou, knowing that among the three of them, Xieting Zhou's brain was the fastest, and there must be a way to make the family admit that the deceased saved people. At that time, their police station can also issue a badge of bravery to the deceased, which can at least make the family of the deceased feel more comfortable. People cannot be resurrected after death, but how they die is very important. Some people's deaths are lighter than a feather, but some people's deaths are heavier than Mount Tai. The following people just want to prove that the deceased's 16-year-old life is meaningful and he died a worthy death. What method? What can I do? Both of them looked at Xieting Zhou happily, only to see Xieting Zhou reply expressionlessly. Let the deceased stand in front of them and identify him, and they will definitely admit it. These words were like the most horrifying cold joke in the world. For a moment, both Guo Ran and Long Liuyun felt that there was such a sudden dark wind in the summer. Not only that, but it even felt like there was the sound of water. He looked down and saw that there were water stains under his feet. He looked towards the water stains and found that water was flowing out of the mop. Guo Ran didn't think much and glared at Xieting Zhou. If the deceased can really come out and identify him, it will be much better for our police station to handle the case. If the Mao family really sees the deceased, they will probably be scared to death. As he spoke, he walked aside and put the mop in the bucket, wondering how the mop came out. Long Liuyun looked down and there were still bursts of crying. The sun was bright, but she felt a little dark in front of her eyes. As a police officer, she felt very powerless. Xieting Zhou just stood there, still expressionless. Next to him, there was a wet 16-year-old boy. His hair was wet and his skin was extremely pale, the kind of white that had been soaked in water. His eyes looked pitifully at Xieting Zhou, with constant water stains. It slipped off his head, then fell down his cheek, and eventually there were some water stains on the ground. This is a scene that no one else can see. If it had been anyone else, they would have been frightened to death by this scene, but Xie Zhou was very calm. In this life, the golden finger he has is called the Master of Metaphysics. This metaphysics master system allows him to see ghosts and communicate with ghosts. Even if he helps ghosts do something, he can get a lot of rewards and sign contracts with these ghosts to make these ghosts his working ghosts. Xie Zhou almost forgot the memory of the original owner, because after he awakened to the system, he was admitted to the police academy directly. In a place like the police academy, naturally no ghost could pass by. After graduation, Xie Zhou came to Yangzhou, Shangjing City. I have been interning here at Dadao for almost half a year, and the things I have dealt with are all bits and pieces. For example, the big cases and criminal cases filmed in other TV series are beyond the reach of small police officers like them. But this time it's different. This was a very simple case, but in the end it didn't get a good result. Please, brother police officer, please tell my parents that I died to save people. I don't want to die. I also miss my parents' children. The person standing next to Xie Zhou at this moment was none other than the owner of the body below, the 16-year-old deceased Hong Xian. Hong Xian turned into a ghost after his death and followed his parents to the police station. When he met Xie Zhou, he immediately felt that the policeman brother seemed to be able to see him. Xie Zhou looked at the ghost he was about to help first and said, "I'll help you." As soon as he said these words, 2 lines of blood and tears flowed down Hong Xian's face. Long Liuyun on the side was a little confused, but saw Xie Zhou taking out his mobile phone to make a call. Soon there was a sound over there. "Hello, is this Mr. Mao? Please bring your wife and son to our Public Security Bureau on Yangzhou Avenue. Regarding the matter of your son falling into the water, our police station has further results. Someone can identify the deceased. My 8-year-old son fell into the water after I rescued him. Please come to the police station to handle the matter as soon as possible." When the person on the other end of the phone heard Xie Zhou's words, his voice trembled with fright. He originally wanted to refuse and said he couldn't come, but the police said that someone had seen it, so he didn't dare not to come and could only agree. Long Liuyun was extremely confused when he saw Xie Zhou's actions. "We have investigated Hongjiao Park. There was no one at the scene at the time, and there was no surveillance. Tingzhou, the master told us not to care about this case. Where did you get the witness?" Guo Ran on the side had already walked over, also looking puzzled. But he never thought that Xie Zhou would say. "I just said, let the person involved tell them what happened. Let's go, let's bring in the people below. Good man, he has a golden finger." Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 225. Guo Ran was confused and didn't understand what was going on. Long Liuyun saw Xie Zhou's actions and hurriedly followed him. The 3 of them went downstairs and passed through the police station hall, and saw the Hong family kneeling at the door. The deceased, Hong Xian, was 16 years old. His father was Hong Jianxi and his mother was Tang Lulu. Hong Xian was an only child, and his parents were also only children. Therefore, those kneeling there were also Hong Xian's grandparents and grandparents. The only child died, so they naturally wanted to seek justice for the child. At this moment, seeing 3 young policemen in police uniforms come out, the couple immediately looked at the police with expectation and begged with sobs. "Comrade police! Please! Please investigate this case again. It is impossible that our Xian died while playing in the water. He has been kind-hearted since he was a child, and we don't let him go to dangerous places. Now he was found in the water with an 8-year-old child. How could he not be saving someone?" Hong Jianxi cried with tears in his eyes. Since the incident last night, this father collapsed overnight, and his hair turned a lot white. Tang Lulu, who was standing next to him, was also pale, with messy hair, and looked at the police in front of him with red eyes expectantly. They had begged the police before, but the case had been determined. The son's death was an accident. In the case that the person involved did not admit it, it was impossible to determine whether the son saved someone. The incident happened last night, around 10 o'clock in the evening. The deceased Hong Ziyan had the habit of running at night, so he ran in Hongqiao Park at night. The time of reporting the case was already 11 o'clock in the evening, which also led to no one in the park seeing what happened at that time. Xie Tingzhou looked at the crying family members of the deceased and spoke. I have called the Mao family to come over. The police now have a way to get to the bottom of this matter, but we need your cooperation. As soon as these words came out, the crying at the scene stopped immediately, and Tang Lulu immediately kowtowed to Xie Tingzhou, saying while kowtowing, Comrade police, we will cooperate, we will definitely cooperate. As long as we know the truth of the matter, we will definitely cooperate. The others were the same, kneeling on the ground and kowtowing continuously. Xie Tingzhou turned sideways and said, First, put the body in a suitable place, and then choose 2 people to handle this case with me. He was so calm, and his expressionless face gave people a feeling of being unapproachable, but it made people want to believe and trust him. So soon, the body was handed over to Hong Ziyan's grandparents and grandparents. Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu followed Xie Tingzhou into the police station to cooperate with the investigation. Guo Ran carefully pulled Xie Tingzhou's clothes and whispered in his ear. How could you let them in? They are making trouble outside our police station, and they have posted it on Weibo. If Master knew, he would definitely scold us. This case is simple, but people's hearts are changing, and it can't be handled. Even if they are police, they can't force the Mao family to admit this matter. The information they investigated can only be speculation, not evidence, and the law cannot determine the outcome of this case. Don't worry, Master will understand me. Xie Tingzhou said, and Long Liuyun on the other side was also a little curious. He really wondered if Xie Tingzhou was joking, or if he really had a way. It was very hard. Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu were taken to the lounge in the police station. It was soon time for lunch. Xie Tingzhou went to the cafeteria and bought 2 meals for the 2 people in the lounge. Although neither of them was in the mood to eat, Xie Tingzhou said, Your son doesn't want to see you abuse yourself like this. After these words came out, the 2 could only eat with red eyes. From yesterday to now, the 2 have not touched a drop of water. Leaving the space to the couple, Xie Tingzhou also went out to eat. Just after he sat down, their master, the old police officer Mao Kun, came. Mao Kun was the most powerful captain of the police force in the Yangzhou Avenue police station, managing all the police in the Yong'an Avenue police station. Tell me, who brought the person in? What do you want to do? Mao Kun already knew that Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu had entered the police station, but this case seemed simple, but there was no way to deal with it. There was no on-site evidence to prove that Hong Ziyan died while saving people. How could he be rewarded? The parents of the dead child just wanted a title of bravery, but the person who was rescued was unwilling to take this responsibility. This is the reality. Mao Kun, the old policeman, has long been accustomed to it. Good people are always bullied. In this case, only rogues can prevail. The Hong family are all good people, so they naturally just want justice. But justice is not here, justice is in the hands of others. Guo Ran and Long Liuyun did not speak, and Xie Tingzhou looked up at his master. It's me, master. I have found a way to make the Mao family admit that it was Hong Ziyan who saved the man. This case can be settled this afternoon. This case was interviewed this morning. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be on the hot search. If it is on the hot search, Shangjing City will be really embarrassed. Oh? What method? Cheating. Mao Kun had no choice. He went to persuade the Hong family in the morning and called the Mao family to ask several times, but they just didn't admit it. How can you make them admit it? Force them? That won't work either. As for the deception mentioned by Mao Kun, it is the use of false evidence to make the parties admit something. This is also used in police inquiries, but it is rarely used in this case. No, master, the Mao family will come later, you come with us, I have a way to make them admit it. Xie Zhou did not say much, but there were wet water stains at his feet, and I don't know when, his sleeves were also a little wet. The canteen was already air-conditioned, and it was even colder at this time. Okay, I want to see what you, a bad boy, are doing. Their police station rarely encounters such a case throughout the year. Most of them are some trivial cases, such as going to traffic control, such as dealing with family chores, or cats are lost, or just posting tickets. Big cases are not their turn. So after the group finished their meal, they went to the police station, and they found that the Mao family had come. The police called, they dared not come, after all, the police controlled too many things. The Mao family, who were already guilty, looked away when they saw the police. Come with us. Xie Zhou looked at the Mao family couple, and didn't expect that they were so smart to leave the 8-year-old at home. Officer, our son was frightened yesterday and had a fever today. He is resting at home. If you have any questions, just tell us too. As the man Mao Tao spoke, he took out a cigarette from his pocket and handed it to several policemen, but they were rejected one by one. No smoking in the police station. Fang Hong, the woman on the side, was also a little flustered. She hurriedly followed the policeman to make a report, feeling more uncomfortable than ever. She didn't expect that her son went to the park to play. The couple just wanted to find excitement, but the son accidentally fell into the water. It was good to be rescued, but the child was too bad. He couldn't swim well and went to save people, but he died in the water. The couple pulled their son up, and when they tried to save him again, he was gone. If this matter gets out, how many people will poke their son's spine? So the couple discussed it when they called the police, and they must not let other people know that this teenager saved people. When they took the Mao family couple to the lounge, they saw the Hong family couple, and their eyes shrank and they dared not look at each other. After seeing them, the Hong family couple was full of hatred, because they didn't want anything else, just wanted to know the truth, to know whether their son's death was an accident or saving people. The couple inferred from the police's questioning and the reactions of the Mao family couple that their son must have saved people. It's just that the Mao family couple didn't want to take responsibility for their son's death, so they shirked that their son fell into the water by himself. An 8-year-old child and a 16-year-old child, one can't swim, and the other can swim. Which one has a higher mortality rate? Arranging the Mao family couple to sit down, Mao Kun really felt deeply disgusted with such a family member with the same surname, but he still had to be a gentle public servant. After the two families sat on both sides, Mao Kun, Guo Ran, and Long Liuyun all looked at Xie Zhou, wanting to know what evidence Xie Zhou had. Unexpectedly, Xie Zhou's next words made people feel that he probably needed to go back to school for some ideological transformation. The deceased Hong Xian is here now. He told me personally that he jumped into the lake to save people and eventually drowned due to exhaustion. The air-conditioned room became even colder, and in an instant, the three policemen were stunned, not to mention the parties involved. What does it mean that the deceased is here now? What does it mean that he told the policeman in person? Xie Zhou looked at the shocked eyes of the crowd and took out a piece of yellow paper from his body. This operation was completely unlike that of a serious policeman. He bit his finger and drew an incomprehensible rune on the yellow paper with blood. This scene made Mao Kun, who had been a policeman for many years, shudder. The next moment, Xie Zhou finished drawing the talisman and then pasted it to his side, and everyone was stunned. In the bright lounge, Everyone heard the sound of water dripping on the ground, and then they saw Hong Xian, who should have died, next to Xie Zhou. He was dripping with water and tears of blood on his face. Why? Why did you accuse me of drowning? I died to save your son. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 226. The water ghost came back to life. At this time, he looked at the Mao family and his wife with such evil feelings. There were blood and tears falling from his eyes when he spoke. It was extremely scary. After all, he saw the child's body with his own eyes last night, and now he saw it out of thin air. This ghostly scene scared the Mao couple to the point of screaming, and Fang Hong even fainted. Mao Tao even grabbed his wife's clothes crazily, closing his eyes and not daring to look at the person in front of him. For a moment, he couldn't tell whether he was in reality or in a dream. He could only tremble, hearing the patter of rain. The sound was so frightening that he peed. But the difference is the Hong family. Every ghost that makes people fear is an existence that others think about day and night. Hong Jianxi and his wife Tang Lulu saw their son's ghost appearing here. Not only were they not afraid, they even burst into tears. They immediately stood up and came to their son, crying and holding him in their arms. Hong Xian had a charm on his body, so he could naturally be hugged. He was wet and cold, but it made Hong Jianxi very excited. Tang Lulu also held his son's hand. Xian, Xian. Son, Daddy's good son. The two of them were not afraid of the ghost shedding blood and tears at all. Hong Xian, who was suddenly hugged, also withdrew his blood and tears. At this moment, he was helpless and let his parents hold him, choking. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's my fault, I made my parents sad. Mom and Dad, please stop crying, please stop crying, okay. He is only 16 years old. A child who has not yet grown up has become a ghost. At this moment, his whole body is cold. When he touches the Hong family couple, they can even feel a chill on their bodies, but neither of them can. They were really reluctant to leave their son. Even though they knew that their son was dead, they still wanted to hug him tightly. This scene fell into the eyes of other policemen. Mao Kun, an old policeman, was stunned. For the first time, he felt that his worldview was shaky. Guo Ran's eyes widened even more, and he grabbed Long Liun's hand beside him, but it was not fear, but shock, because just now they saw Hong Xian's body with their own eyes. What appears here now is undoubtedly Hong Xian's ghost. Although Long Liun is a girl, she is not afraid of ghosts. Growing up, she looked at the portrait of her father and often thought that it would be great if she could see her father again. Long Liun was not afraid of ghosts. Even looking at Xie Zhou at this time was full of surprise and an inexplicable expectation. If all this is true, will she have a chance to see her father again? Xie Zhou walked directly towards the Mao family and his wife, and then said directly to them. If you two continue to close your eyes, I will ask Hong Xian to find your son. He died in the water and has become a water ghost. It would be easy to kill someone. Of course, this is scary. If a newly dead ghost can kill people, it is too powerful. Just after Xie Zhou said these words, the Mao couple did not dare to pretend to be asleep anymore. They could only open their eyes in fear, and then the dream that they thought would disappear was still in front of them. Hong Xian asked his parents to let go of their embrace, and then came to the Mao family. He really wanted to question the two of them. I heard your cry for help and went over to save your son, but after I died, you lied to my parents that I died because I went swimming for fun. You are bad people. A 16-year-old child still doesn't know how to say cruel words in this world. Even if he resents these two people in his heart, he just calls them bad people. The cold mist and water stains spread to the soles of the Mao couple's feet, and they collapsed in panic. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We really didn't mean it, we were just afraid that your parents would come to our house. Yes. You died to save my son. It was you who saved our son." Fang Hong couldn't help crying and shouted, admitting the matter at this moment, which did not surprise anyone present at all. Mao Tao also nodded crazily. "Yes, we were wrong. We are bad people. We should not have deceived your parents or the police. My little classmate, I know you are a good person, otherwise you would not have saved my son. Can you let us go now? We will apologize to your parents and compensate your parents. You are the one who saved my son, you acted bravely." At this moment, they tried to kidnap the ghost in front of them by saying that Hong Xian was a good person, and admitted that Hong Xian saved people. This scene was ironic and terrifying, leaving several policemen in strange silence. Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu started crying again. Thinking of all the injustice their son had suffered, they felt extremely uncomfortable. Hong Xian just wanted justice. After saying this, he turned to look at Xie Tingzhou, grateful. Xie Tingzhou looked at the Mao couple and said, "Didn't you bully the dead before and be unable to speak? I will let the dead come out to talk to you now. Before, the Hong family only wanted justice and the truth. They did not want to blackmail you because of the death of their son. On the contrary, the conscience was eaten by the dog." Xie Tingzhou looked down upon such people very much. It was probably because there were too many such people in the world that it made good people so sad. Yes, it's our fault. Our consciences were eaten by dogs. Little classmate, I apologize to you. Don't hurt my son, and don't hurt us either. People and ghosts live in different paths. We will burn paper for you. Yes. Let the police give you justice." At this moment, Mao Tao had runny nose. He was really scared. After all, what he saw in front of him was a ghost, a terrifying ghost. This incident simply challenged Mao Tao's worldview. So humans fear ghosts deep in their bones, and now that qualified ghosts can be found in the police station, where else can they not dare to go? In response, Xie Tingzhou looked at his master. "Master, is there a result in this case? Can Hong Xian be judged as a hero of justice? If that doesn't work, it would be really sad." Mao Kun looked at the ghost in front of him and felt that everything that happened now was like a big dream, but it was obvious that it really happened. It settled. Just facing the ghost, Mao Kun didn't know what to say, so he could only look at Hong Xian and said, "Hong Xian, we all know that you are a good boy. You were a good boy during your lifetime and you will be a good boy after your death." He didn't know why he wasn't afraid of Hong Xian in front of him, but he said such words sincerely, because this child saved people during his life and did not hurt anyone after his death. He was really a good child. Guo Ran and Long Liuyun didn't speak, they just looked at Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu who were still crying. Xie Tingzhou didn't look like a little policeman at this time. He had a very high-level demeanor. He stretched out his hand and tore off the yellow paper attached to the ghost Hong Xian. The ghost Hong Xian disappeared in front of everyone, and then quickly his fingers folded into the shape of a small person and he said towards Hong Jian, "Open your hands." Hong Jianxi didn't know why, but he still stretched out his hand and saw Xie Tingzhou put the little yellow figure in his hand. The yellow paper was originally lying there, but the next moment it came alive in Hong Jianxi's palm. "Come here." It stood up, jumped in his father's hand, and then hugged his father's thumb. "Dad, I want to go home. I want to see my grandparents and grandparents." I saw them all crying. As soon as these words came out, Hong Jianxi's eyes turned red again, and Tang Lulu on the side looked carefully at her son who had turned into a little paper man. "You are its biological parents. From today onwards, you can put a drop of blood on it every day to maintain the child's soul. After 7 days of burial, you can return this thing. This was a reward given by Xietingzhou. The child died pitifully, and his family was also pitiful. These 7 days were the time for Xietingzhou to let the child say goodbye to his family. It is true that humans and ghosts have different paths. It is unrealistic to keep this child here forever. Although he has methods, it is obviously not suitable for Hongxian. Thank you, comrade police, thank you. I kneel down for you. Hong Jianxi wanted to kneel down again, but was stopped by Xietingzhou. Go and say your final farewell to him. This child has a pure heart and will definitely join a wealthy family in the next life. But she could stop one, but couldn't stop two. Tang Lulu knelt aside, kowtowed to Xietingzhou fiercely, and said after kowtowing. We, husband and wife, would like to thank the police comrades. We are satisfied to be able to see Xian again. After the couple thanked each other, they hurriedly took Hongxian to meet his grandparents. The Mao family couple who stayed here were re-recorded. Hongxian was brave enough to settle the matter. Because he saved other people's lives, the child would eventually be named a martyr. After the Mao family left, everyone looked at Xietingzhou. The words they wanted to ask suddenly couldn't be asked. A few of them saw a ghost in the police station. Who dares to believe this? I still feel like I'm dreaming. I feel like I've seen a ghost. Guo Ran said this, Long Liun nodded, and then looked at Xietingzhou. Tingzhou, tell us, do you have any extraordinary identity? Are you a master or something? Why? Why can you still draw talismans? And, can you also let us see ghosts? Mao Kun had also recovered from the shock. Looking at his apprentice, he thought, how could he report this to the director and say that he had seen a ghost? The apprentice is an expert and can draw talismans to make people see ghosts. This is so nonsense, okay. Xietingzhou, on the other hand, said extremely calmly. You are all right in your guess. I am a member of Suanmen. It is no problem to let you see ghosts. There are laws in the human world and rules in the ghost world. Normally, I don't care about these. It's just that some ghosts come to me. Of course we can't let it go. If people have grievances, they should go to the police. If ghosts have grievances, they should go to the master. That's no problem. It's very reasonable. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Bulletin Jian. Chapter 227. For example, Hongxian's heroic act requires a report to be written, and it has been approved by the police station. If he is determined to be a martyr, his family will also be compensated. The state supports and protects any martyr who takes action to protect state property and people's safety and property. After the Mao family left, as expected, this matter became a hot search that afternoon. Hashtag 16-year-old boy died for heroic acts. Hashtag it became a hot search. Clicking on it, it turned out to be a picture outside their Yangzhou Avenue police station. The Hong family members were kneeling on the ground, and Hongxian's body was covered with a layer of white cloth. It must have been secretly photographed. After clicking in, the following is the speculation of the photographer, saying that the 16-year-old deceased rescued an 8-year-old child in the park's artificial lake at 10 o'clock last night, and therefore drowned, but in the end no result was obtained. The family of the deceased knelt at the door of the police station waiting for investigation. Before the netizens who were eating melons clicked in, they didn't know the situation. After entering, they immediately cursed. After all, a 16-year-old's life is too immature. After saving people, he didn't even get the result he deserved. Isn't this heartbreaking? When the netizens who were eating melons below said that they would never let their children be kind people in the future, several people in the police station were silent. After all, no one wants to see their children die for kindness and not get justice. Mao Kun called the director and told him about this matter. He didn't say he saw a ghost, but just said that there was evidence to let the Mao family loose. Now that Hong Xian's case has been determined, plus there is online public opinion, a public statement is needed. After hearing this, Director Wang also sighed. After all, a 16-year-old child is so immature. So this case was handled with special privileges. 2 hours after netizens were eating melons, the Shangjing police released the latest information. Shangjing Police Station v. Hashtag 16-year-old boy Hong Xian bravely does what is right. Hashtag at 23:16 on July 28, 2033, Shangjing time, the Yangzhou Avenue Public Security Bureau in our city received a report that a 16-year-old boy drowned in Hongqiao Park. The police arrived quickly and determined that the deceased died of drowning. After investigation, the deceased Hong Mumu drowned while trying to save an 8-year-old child Mao Mumu, which was a brave act. The Yangzhou Avenue Public Security Bureau has applied for the Bravery Award for the young hero Hong Xian, applied for the status of martyr, and comforted the hero's family. As soon as this notice came out, the netizens below felt distressed. If everyone said it was unfair before, some cursed, and some said they hoped their children would not be so kind in the future, but when the official issued this notice, everyone fell silent and left only one sentence. Hashtag little hero Hong Xian, go well. Hashtag it once again rushed to the hot search. This time, after opening it, it was all words of mourning from netizens. The 16-year-old life was now known to more people. Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu, a couple, had planned to follow the police officer's advice and bury their son, but cremation was required for burial these days. After leaving the police station, they took Hong Xian's body to the crematorium with their family, but unexpectedly received a call from a villager. Brother Hong. We saw the news. Xian is a good kid. If you need any help, just tell us. It turned out that they were from Hongjia village. Hong Jianxi lived in the village when he was a child. Later, when he grew up and went to college, he settled down in the city and only went back during the holidays. However, it had been less than a day since this happened, and the villagers had not been notified, but they didn't expect that someone had already known about it. Hong Jianxi didn't know what to say, and then he heard another voice from the other end. It turned out to be the village chief of Hongjia village. Xiao Hong, let the child come back. Fallen leaves return to their roots. Everyone in the village is waiting to see this child for the last time. He is a little hero. It's all on the news. Hearing that the village chief knew about this matter, Hong Jianxi spoke dryly. Okay, thank you, village chief, and thank you to the people in the village. The death of his son was a huge blow to Hong Jianxi, but now he had to accept it all. He didn't accept his son's unclear death last night, and now his son was going to be buried, so Hong Jianxi was naturally upset. After the call was hung up, Hong Xian, who was held by his mother Tang Lulu, jumped in his mother's hands. Seeing that his father was about to cry again, he hurriedly spoke. Dad, don't be sad, I'm here. The familiar voice of his son came. Hong Jianxi turned his head and looked at his son who had turned into a paper man. He was almost crying, but he couldn't bear to let his son see it. Dad is not sad, Dad just feels sorry for you. He raised his head with red eyes, unwilling to let his son see his tears falling, letting the tears roll in his eyes, but Hong Xian turned his head to look at his mother. Mom, can you put me on Dad's shoulders? When these words came out, Mother Tang Lulu also burst into tears, because her son liked to sit on her husband's shoulders when he was a child, and Tang Lulu was always the one who helped. It was the same now. The crematorium was filled with smoke, and her son's body had long been extremely cold. The lightness in her palm was her son's last existence. She carefully put her son on her husband's shoulders. They sat in an empty corner and enjoyed her son's last dependence. Standing on his father's shoulders, Hong Xian looked at his father's profile and found that there were many white hairs on his father's ears. He also wanted to cry, but as a little paper man, he would not cry. The little paper man walked over slowly and stuck to Hong Jianshi's neck, hugging his father's neck and saying caring words. "Dad, don't blame yourself. Dad has never let me down. I like Dad and Mom. I don't want to make Dad and Mom sad." This was the first time Hong Xian saw such a sad father and mother. Their eyes were red from crying, and they were exhausted. Tang Lulu, who was standing by, burst into tears again, lowering her head and wiping her tears in panic. In the past, she always chattered at home, but now, Tang Lulu didn't know what to say. Her throat seemed to be blocked by cotton, and even breathing was extremely difficult. Hong Jianshi, who was being hugged by his son, finally couldn't help it. Although he raised his head, tears still slid down from the corners of his eyes and down his cheeks, soaking the little paper man, making the little paper man look at the wet marks on his body, looking a little pitiful. "Son, Daddy really regrets it now. I regret that I shouldn't have let you learn to swim. I regret that I shouldn't have let you be a kind child. Zion, Daddy even thought that it would be better if someone else's child died at that time. Daddy just wants you to live, just wants you to live well." Finally, he couldn't help but break down and cry. Hong Jianshi only had this one son. The moment he saw his son's body, his mind was buzzing. Later, during the police's questioning, he wanted to know the truth about his son's death. As a father, he had no time to grieve, so he could only try to get justice for his dead son. But now, justice has been sought, but what about his son? The son is dead, the son is gone. He choked and cried, and was extremely broken. Even if he had the brand of being a hero, what would it matter? Who could give him a son? Tang Lulu, who was standing by, also burst into tears and said what she wanted to say in her heart. "Zion, when I saw your body, I kept thinking, why not someone else? Why you? Even though I heard from the police that you died to save people, I really couldn't bear to part with you. I'd rather you not be so kind, be a little selfish, or even watch someone die without saving him. As long as you're alive, I just want you to be alive." This is probably what the parents really said. Whether their son is a martyr or a brave man, it doesn't matter to them. All they want is for their son to grow up healthy and be the most ordinary person in the world. The little paper man felt very sad when he heard what his parents said, and he wanted to cry, but he was just a little paper man, he wouldn't cry, he could only hug his father's neck and said, "But my parents taught me this way since I was a child, saying that I should be a kind and brave person, help the weak, speak up for justice, and be brave to help others. I saw that many people on my phone were praising me as a little hero. They said I was the bravest boy in the world. If everyone did not help others in times of crisis, what should I do when I need help?" Even if the little boy was dead, the question he asked made the two adults feel sad, and this moment was even more uncomfortable. Yes, they taught their son so well, and their son just became the kind of person they taught him, but as parents, they are now going to overturn all of this. Hong Jianshi reached out to wipe his tears, then took his son off his neck, holding him in his hands. Although his eyes were sad, they were gentle. "Zion, Mom and Dad both admit that you are not only a little hero in the eyes of netizens, but also a little hero in the hearts of Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad will always be proud of you." What Mom and Dad said just now were all angry words. In fact, knowing that you died for righteousness, Dad is proud of you in his heart. The son is dead, and everything he did is right. No matter how sad they are as parents, they can't destroy their son's kind heart. Tang Lulu also reacted immediately, and a smile appeared on her tearful face. "Yes, Zion, you are the baby that Mom is most proud of, you are a little hero." Sure enough, when Hong Zion heard this, he jumped happily in his father's hands, as if to reassure his parents, his voice became a little more lively. Of course I am a little hero, I saved a person. If I were allowed to go back and choose again, I would save him again. As he said this, the Hong family couple felt extremely bitter. This is a kind and sincere heart of a young man. Even after death, he never regretted it. As the smoke from the crematorium billowed, the boy's body was completely cremated, but many golden lights invisible to the human eye rushed towards the cute little paper man. He was remembered in another way. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin. Chapter 228. The local news in Beijing also reported on the young hero's sacrifice in saving lives in various news reports that night. People from the Hong family had been asked before, so Hong Xian's real name was not mosaic processed. Therefore, this evening Hong Jianxi and his wife Tang Lulu received many calls from relatives, friends, and colleagues. Hong Jianxi is a small leader of a construction company, specializing in architectural design, and Tang Lulu is a high school teacher. Otherwise, they would not be able to teach such good children. Now is the time for vacation, but Tang Lulu's colleagues and students are also starting to fight. I called and came to express my condolences. By the time the phone rang, it was already early at night, and the couple couldn't sleep. Hong Xian, who was lying on the pillow between them, was a ghost, so he naturally didn't need to sleep. It was Aj's call just now, right? In fact, I really want to talk to Aj, but I'm afraid of scaring him. Hong Xian heard the voice of his good friend Aj, who said he would come back to attend his funeral. They all care about you, but your situation is different now. Except for our family, we can't let anyone know that you are still here. Tang Lulu explained this matter to her son seriously. She saw with her own eyes that her son's body was sent to the incinerator and turned into ashes when it came out. Both husband and wife were worried that their son would be affected. After asking, they found that their son was not affected. I was relieved. It seems that when a person dies, he or she is dead. The body and the soul are two different things. Even if the body is burned to ashes, there will be no pain. The couple has never slept with their son since he was 10 years old. Hong Xian is a very independent child, and now, lying in his parents' bedroom again, Hong Xian is not sleepy and is quite excited. It's best if I can stay with my parents like this. I used to like sleeping alone. Hong Xian began to chatter endlessly, and both husband and wife stood in to listen. It had been nearly 40 hours since yesterday morning until now, but neither of them felt sleepy. After I saw my grandparents today, they were very sad. When I leave, I don't want to tell them to save them from being sad. As he talked, Hong Xian talked about what he was going to do. After all, humans and ghosts have different paths. Although Hong Xian had been a ghost for less than 2 days, he also knew that he couldn't stay with his parents. Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu were both silent. After a while, Hong Xian was talking alone. The couple closed their eyes and seemed to be asleep. Hong Xian quietly got up from the pillow. Come, jump up and down to Tang Lulu's face, hugging her mother's face. Mom, I will never be angry with you again, and I can't protect you, so you must be good. He said a lot of disgusting things that he couldn't say as a boy before. He didn't care whether his mother heard it or not. After he finished speaking, he slapped his father, Hong Jianxi, in such a clingy manner. He was rarely so clingy. Dad, when I leave, you must protect your mother well. Along with my share, you must also take good care of yourself. Don't be so busy at work. Your health is the most important thing. The kid was chattering beside the couple. Tang Lulu turned over, facing away from the little yellow paper man, and then cried silently. Hong Jianxi's eyelids were trembling, but he still endured it, and placed his hands tightly under the quilt. Hold. This is the most tender farewell in the world, but it is like a knife that cuts into the heart of the couple, and finally turns into blood and tears. On the second day, When Xie Tingzhou went to work again, he didn't expect the bureau to issue documents so quickly. Tingzhou, you, Guo Ran and Liuyun will go to Hong's house with me later, and send over this medal for bravery and martyrdom, as well as the 1 million yuan compensation that the higher UPS are going to approve. We also need to inform the Hong family. In addition, we have a cemetery specifically for martyrs in Shangjing City. In Hong Xian's case, we can arrange it there for free. Let's go and ask first. Yesterday, the Bureau made an urgent review and approval, and the identity of Hong Xian as a martyr was also proved, so this time it was also to award Hong Xian an honorary title. Our country has regulations that provide special legislative protection for the image of heroes and martyrs. In addition, yesterday afternoon hot search, which is why Hong Xian's case was determined so quickly. One is because of the pressure of public opinion. The second reason is that our country has always had legal protection for positive propaganda of heroes and martyrs. If a 16-year-old child sacrificed his life to save others and still couldn't get the honor he deserved, how desperate would the world be? Kindness. Guo Ran and Long Liuyun also nodded, and then everyone got in the car together. Not only Mao Kun, but also other colleagues from the police station, they all wanted to visit together. Before leaving, I called Hong Jianxi and learned that the couple had just cremated Hong Xian's body and planned to return to their hometown to prepare for a formal funeral. When Mao Kun and other police officers wearing police uniforms and police titles came to Hong Jianxi's community, they found that Hong Jianxi's community was full of white and yellow chrysanthemums on the roadside. It turns out that many people in the community saw the news last night and learned that the brave little hero belonged to their community, so everyone secretly contacted the property management and paid for it together. In the morning, the flower shop sent a message to express everyone's condolences. Flowers covered the community all the way. When they arrived at the 15th floor where the Hong family lived, Hong Jianxi opened the door. He didn't react much when he saw the police coming, but he was very excited when he saw Xie Tingzhou. "Mr. Hong, we are here on behalf of the police station to present your son Hong Xian with the honorary title of a martyr for bravery. After multiple approvals by the police station, we believe that the little hero Hong Xian is brave and fearless, and bravely saved a life for justice. This is something that is very worthy of learning and praise, so please accept my condolences." The police handed the things prepared by the police station to Hong Jianxi, which was the honorary title sign issued by the police station. When Hong Jianxi received this thing, he felt extremely heavy, but he could only nod. There are many people in the Hong family, relatives and friends have come. After all, they will hold a funeral later, and they still need help. Mao Kun said that Hong Xian is a martyr and can be buried directly in their martyrs' cemetery in Shangjing City. The whole arrangement will be arranged by the police. Of course, they will also respect the ideas of the martyrs' families. If the martyrs' families want to take their children back to their roots, they will not force it too much. When Hong Jianxi heard that his son was named a martyr and could go to the martyrs' cemetery, he thought his son would be happy to hear it. When he brought Mao Kun and several policemen who had seen his son's ghost to the room, he saw a little paper man jumping on the table. The little body that should have been made of yellow paper was now wearing a little sweater that seemed to be made of red wool, which looked very cute. "Uncle Police," when Hong Xian saw Xie Tingzhou, he jumped even more. It was so cute, just like a little toy. Mao Kun looked at this little thing and couldn't imagine that there was a human soul inside. Long Liuyun and Guo Ran also looked at the little paper man curiously. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, how would they know that there was a child's soul inside? And it could even talk. Now people outside are handling Hong Xian's funeral, and he himself looks quite happy. "The country is going to name you a martyr. You will be buried in the martyrs' cemetery and will not go home. What do you think, son?" Hong Xian was probably the first person to participate in being buried there after his death. When he heard that he was going to be buried in the martyrs' cemetery, he was immediately very happy. Great. In this way, many people will come to see me in the future, and there will be children coming to sweep my grave and sing for me. It's great. The little paper man spoke with a bit of youthful innocence, as if he didn't know what the meaning of death was. Sieting Joe was very calm. He sat aside and stretched out his hand. The little paper man jumped up. Seeing that his son seemed to be very attached to Officer Xie Hongjian and his wife didn't say much. They knew that this officer was very powerful and more useful than the masters outside. In the end, the couple went outside to discuss things. Only Sieting Zhou, Guo Ran, and Long Liuyun were left in the room. "Uncle policeman, after my funeral is over, will I have to leave my parents?" Hong Xian asked while holding Sieting Zhou's thumb. He was so cute and small, and the red sweater on his body was handmade by Tang Lulu. "Don't you want to leave them?" Sieting Zhou asked, accustomed to the ghost's closeness. "I don't want to leave my parents, but people and ghosts are different. I will hurt them if I stay with them after becoming a ghost." Hong Xian naturally understood many things. Even if he was reluctant to leave his parents, he was willing to leave. When Guo Ran and Long Liuyun heard this, their hearts ached. Thinking that the child was only 16 years old, their feelings became more complicated. "I have a way to keep you from leaving them." Sieting Zhou spoke again, fiddling with the paper man in the red vest, and then the little paper man was flustered by his fiddling. "No, I can't bear to let my parents bleed to raise me, as long as they are well." This morning, it was Tang Lulu who pricked her finger and used her blood to wake up Hong Xian, so Hong Xian knew that he could use his parents' blood every day in this little paper man, and he couldn't bear it. It was unknown when the outside of the house became quiet, but Hong Xian didn't hear it, but still thanked happily. "Uncle Police, I am very happy that you can let me stay with my parents for such a long time." "Thank you, Uncle Police. After I am buried, I will be reincarnated obediently and will not be a bad ghost." The couple outside the house had red eyes, and Sieting Zhou casually fiddled with the body of Hong Xian's little paper man, making him sway to the left and right. "Oh? Then you don't want to continue to be your parents' child. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin. Chapter 229. When these words came out, everyone inside and outside the door was stunned. They didn't expect Sieting Zhou to have such ability. Hong Xian was so excited that he jumped around in Sieting Zhou's hands, and then hugged Sieting Zhou's thumb and acted like a spoiled child. "I want to. I dream about it. If possible, I still hope to be my parents' child. When I am their child next time, I must be obedient and don't die so early to make them sad." Hong Xian's words are true. Even if he is a child who has not yet reached adulthood, he can see that in the more than 40 hours since his death, his father's hair has turned a lot white, as if he has aged overnight, and his mother's eyes have been red from crying. He does not regret dying for saving people, but he knows in his heart that he is dead, but the saddest are his parents. Grandpa and Grandma all support the one-child policy. Later, after his parents got married, in order to give their children the best of everything, Hong Xian is the only child in the family. From childhood to adulthood, when others have sisters and brothers, Hong Xian always says loudly that "I am happy to have a father and a mother." He dared not think about it, nor could he think about the blow his parents would suffer after his death. How sad his parents would be if they didn't have a child by their side. He jumped twice with excitement, and then told the police uncle in front of him what he couldn't tell his parents in his heart, full of trust. "Police uncle, in fact, before you came, I thought that when I really had to leave, I would tell my parents to give me another brother, let that brother grow up for me and protect my parents. I am not a good child for my parents. I died so easily, making my parents and the people in the family so sad. If they could choose, my parents would definitely not want a disobedient child like me, right? This is what Hong Xian had been thinking about after his parents fell asleep yesterday. His parents raised him from such a small little thing. It was not easy for him to grow up, but he died just like that, making his parents so sad. If his parents had the opportunity to have a new child, they would definitely not want a child like him, right? Hong Xian listened to his parents apologizing to him non-stop, and he felt sorry for his parents in his heart. As a result, the next moment, the door was suddenly pushed open, and outside were the Hong family's parents. Hong Jianxi and his wife Tang Lulu's eyes were red, and so was Mao Kun. How could he not understand what this meant? It's not like that, Ziyan, Dad only wants you to be my son. Hong Jianxi didn't push the door open before because he was afraid of delaying his son's conversation with the master. Later, when he heard the master say that his son could return to them, he was already trembling with excitement, but he didn't expect to hear his son say this, and he burst into tears. Tang Lulu was the same, and she had already walked in at this time. Don't think so, Anan, my mother. Even if you give your parents 1,000 or 10,000 chances to choose, your parents will still choose you to be my son. You are so brave and kind. Mom loves Anan very much. Mom wants to be Anan's mother again. This time, Mom will protect you well. After the incident with their son, Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu, in addition to being sad about their son's death, actually had a quarrel, thinking that there was a problem with their son's education. If their son could be more selfish, they could all see their son alive. But after knowing the cause of their son's death, the couple also thought it was their own fault and that they did not protect their son well. If one of them followed their son when he went for a night run that day, even if they met someone saving them, they both knew how to swim and would not let their son go down by himself, and their son would not die. Perhaps true love is like this: you always feel that you owe the other person something, and you want to dig out your heart to show it to the other person. At the moment when anything happens, you will not blame the other person, but only blame yourself from the heart. Why were they not at the scene as parents when the incident happened? Why did they not protect their underage son? Tang Lulu stretched out her hand carefully, and Hong Xian jumped up cutely. Unexpectedly, his parents heard this outside the house. At this time, he was a little embarrassed to say what his parents said. Mom, I love you and Dad too, and I want to be your and Dad's son forever. This is his true words. In fact, all the previous words were to comfort his parents and make them less sad. Mao Kun, on the other hand, saw the cute look of the little paper man wearing a red sweater, and thought that it was summer and the temperature was quite high, so he made a sweater for the little paper man. It was really cute. Student Hong Xian, don't think that you died casually. You died heroically to save other people's lives. You are a martyr, and you are a person that everyone should admire. So your parents like you, we police officers like you, and those who have seen you in the news like you. You are a very kind, very good child. Captain Mao Kun stretched out his hand and poked the little paper man. The little paper man took a step back under Captain Mao Kun's finger. Hong Jianxi quickly stretched out his hand to stop him, fearing that his son would fall. So the door of the room was closed again. This time, all the relatives and friends outside were invited to leave, leaving only the police and Hong's parents. These people had seen ghosts and knew Xie Ting's ability. Master, can you really let my son return to my wife and me? As long as my Anan can come back, my wife and I can do anything. Hong Jianxi looked at Xie Tingzhou cautiously. Looking at this young policeman, he felt that he could give anything as long as his son could come back. Tang Lulu had the same idea, and looked at Xie Tingzhou as pitifully as the little paper man in his hand. Xie Tingzhou just asked, "Do you plan to have another child in the future?" As soon as this was said, Hong Jianxi wanted to nod, but then shook his head. Master, I won't hide it from you. If I didn't know that Anan could come back to me and my wife, and I would have discussed it, and it would be absolutely impossible to have another child. Just like when we just gave birth to Anan, we made a promise at that time that we only wanted Anan as a child in this life. If Anan was buried, we didn't plan to have another child. The next child might grow up healthily, but for Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu, that would not be their eldest son Hong Xian. Tang Lulu also nodded, and Hong Xian seemed a little sad after hearing his father's words. The little paper man lay in his palm, and I don't know what he was thinking. That's right, I tell you bluntly, young people don't have children now, so many people don't have the opportunity to reincarnate after they die. If you want to reincarnate, someone must give birth. If you two don't have children, Hong Xian may not have the opportunity to reincarnate even if he waits for 50 years. If you want him to reincarnate, give birth to him yourself. I have a way to make him your son again. Xie Ting's words are true. Since the master of metaphysics system was turned on, the system will automatically count and scan ghosts within 10 kilometers. There are many ghosts, but those ghosts who have died for a long time will not come to people, so Xie Ting Zhou will not meet them. Ghosts wander in the world for a long time, lose their 3 souls and 6 spirits, and eventually dissipate between heaven and earth. Mao Kun, Guo Ran and Long Liuyun were all stunned. They never expected that they would hear such a scientific statement. Because no one has children, ghosts have no place to reincarnate after death. For example, in the case of Hong Xian, everyone just thought that people should reincarnate after death, but they didn't expect that they couldn't reincarnate now. There is no chance. Master, I am willing to have a child. I am willing to let Anan reincarnate in my belly again. I also want to be Anan's mother. Please, Master, please help me. Tang Lulu looked at Xie Ting Zhou pleadingly. For her son, she was willing to give birth again, because when she thought that her son could come back to her, Tang Lulu couldn't help crying. That's good. After Hong Xian's funeral, I will tell you how to prepare. Then let Hong Xian reincarnate in your family again. This is very simple for Xie Ting Zhou. A family who has lost their only child will have a hard time in the days to come, but with such hope, everything will be fine. Mao Kun saw that Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu were happy, and even the little paper man was jumping, and he immediately laughed. This may be why people like happy endings. Hong Xian is a good child. If he can have a good ending, it would be great. After that, they discussed the funeral of Hong Xian, and finally decided to hold the funeral in the Martyrs Cemetery in Shangjing City. 3 days later, Hong Xian's funeral began. The police team took Hong Xian's ashes to the Martyrs Cemetery in a car. Along the way, they met many parents who came to pay tribute to the little hero with white and yellow chrysanthemums. They also had children around them, and they taught their children how to be a kind and upright person. All the way to the Martyrs Cemetery, there were reporters and media taking pictures, and there were also citizens who came spontaneously to lay flowers. The scene was solemn and solemn. Hong Xian was buried in the sound of mourning music. Lying on the policeman and watching his spectacular funeral, watching those familiar and unfamiliar people giving him flowers, and teaching more children to learn brave and fearless kindness, Hong Xian suddenly felt very happy. He hugged the police badge on Xie Ting's shoulder and spoke happily. Policeman, I'm so happy. Although I'm dead, I'm so happy. Because there are so many kind and brave people in this world, it's really great. Xie Ting Zhou listened to the child's chattering, but he also laughed. Yes, there are so many brave and kind people in this world, their bravery and kindness should not be let down, they should be remembered and praised. Because this is their short and brilliant life shining. Good man, he has a golden finger. Author, Zhanghu Buletin Jian. Chapter 230. After the funeral, the Municipal Public Security Bureau gave Hong Xian's family a compensation of 1 million yuan. The Mao family seemed to be frightened by seeing Hong Xian's ghost, and they even scraped together 200,000 yuan to send over. The Hong family did not intend to forgive them and did not want to accept the money, but finally accepted it with the consent of their son. If mom and dad don't take this money, they will always be scared and think that I want to harm them. If there is something wrong with their family in the future, they will blame mom and dad. After the death, Hong Xian figured out the situation and said such mature words. Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu felt bitter in their hearts, but they still listened to their son and accepted the 200,000 yuan given by the Mao family. After all, the 200,000 yuan given by the Mao family was not a thank you for saving their son before, but a life-saving money for the Mao family after being overly frightened. After all, you saw ghosts in a place like the police station, so wouldn't they be even more unsafe at home? So the Hong family accepted the money, which proved that the ghost Hong Xian had forgiven them and would not trouble them. After the funeral was over, the Hong family couple took Hong Xian's little paper man back to the police station again. This time they were specifically visiting Xietingzhou. There was a rule in the Public Security Bureau that things could not be given to the police, so the couple did not bring anything, but just bought milk tea according to their son's wishes. Originally, the people in the police station disagreed when they brought it in, but when Long Liuyun saw the little ghost jumping around, he knew that the milk tea was arranged by Hong Xian, so he accepted it. After all, the rules are set for people, and now the ghost wants to come and give you milk tea, you can't do anything about it. In the end, the milk tea was brought in, and Hong Xian came in together. In addition to Mao Kun, the police present this time also had Director Wang, who was on a business trip before. After returning, he specifically asked about this case. He was surprised to learn that there was a master in his own police station who could let the ghost of the deceased show everyone. Actually, whether they are businessmen or policemen, they all have a lot of awe for ghosts and spirits. Respecting the dead is what they policemen have always done, but Director Wang still felt that seeing a real ghost was problematic, so he followed. Master, thank you for letting my son accompany my husband and me for so long. Thank you. Hong Jianxi was sincerely grateful, and Tang Lulu did the same. She put the little paper man on the table. Today's little paper man did not pass clothes, just jumping around on the table, looking like a magic show. Director Wang widened his eyes, couldn't believe it, and asked unconsciously. Are you Hong Xian? Is this really not a magic trick? Yes, police uncle, I am Hong Xian. Hong Xian ran towards Xietingzhou on the table and said when he saw the Qingguo mountain tea in front of Xietingzhou. Uncle Xie, I asked Officer Long, and she said that your favorite drink is Qingguo mountain tea. Thank you for helping me make these. I will treat you to milk tea. The child's thanks were not mercenary, but a sincere desire to give others what they like. Well, thank you. Xietingzhou took a look at the milk tea and nodded. Then everyone saw Xietingzhou stretched out his hand and pinched Hong Xian in his palm, and then he actually took apart the little paper man. The paper man that was taken apart was a bright yellow talisman paper with a blood-red talisman on it. The next moment, Xietingzhou slapped the talisman on the air beside him, and then everyone felt that the temperature in the room dropped instantly, and then they saw Hong Xian who appeared here. Yes, it was the Hong Xian they had seen and buried. The young man was pale, and water drops were still falling from his hair. His skin was a terrifying color, and his eyes were red, but he stood there obediently. Xietingzhou took out another yellow talisman paper from his police uniform, and then looked at the couple in front of him. You two should drop your blood on it, at least to the extent that you can write words. Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu did not hesitate. They saw the knife and band-aid on the table and knew that Officer Xie had prepared them long ago. The two directly cut their fingers with the knife and then let the blood drip on the yellow talisman paper. This is feudal superstition. Chief Wang, the policeman, should have stopped all this, but when he saw Hong Xian's soul standing there, he was immediately frozen and unable to move. He had read the case materials and naturally knew what Hong Xian looked like. Now a person appeared out of thin air in the police station. Combined with the video he had seen before, he had to admit that the little policeman he recruited seemed to be quite powerful. You know, when Mao Kunchao saw the ghost himself, Director Wang didn't believe it and adjusted the surveillance in the lounge. Unexpectedly, he saw everyone, and also saw the Mao family members being frightened and changing their testimonies, but there was no Hong Xian in the surveillance camera. After the couple dripped blood, Xieting Zhou directly picked up the talisman paper, and then drew mysterious symbols on it with his fingers, and stuck it on the ghost Hong Xian in the confused eyes of everyone. Today I have connected your fate with your parents. If your mother gets pregnant again, you can be reborn in her womb. But if your mother doesn't get pregnant, you may never be reborn in someone else's womb again. This is fixed point reincarnation. If there is a problem with the fixed point location, the ghost will naturally have to pay the price. Thank you, Uncle Xie. I know. Hong Xian nodded obediently. Although he is a ghost, he is quite cute. Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu even said that they would definitely let their son be born. Knowing that the next child might be the reincarnation of their son, it was as if the child had never left their side. Both of them were laughing with tears. Finally, Xieting Zhou took off the yellow talisman paper. With a snap of his fingers, the two yellow papers that were originally attached to Hong Xian had spontaneously ignited, a purple flame, and Hong Xian had disappeared in front of everyone. If there were no water stains on the ground, who would have thought that a ghost had just been here in this world? In a place where no one could hear, Xieting Zhou heard the system prompt sound. Congratulations to the host for successfully sending a ghost to reincarnate. You will be rewarded with 100 special ghost seeing spells. Please keep working hard. After Hong Jianxi and Tang Lulu left the police station with gratitude, Director Wang, Mao Kun, Guo Ran and Long Liuyun all looked at Xieting Zhou with very subtle eyes. After all, there are only a few people in the police station who know that Xieting Zhou can make people see ghosts. Even if you tell others, they won't believe it. Mao Kun hasn't seen this matter publicized everywhere. It's meaningless and people won't believe it. Ting Zhou, what's going on here? Will people really become ghosts after they die, and will they reincarnate in the underworld? Director Wang actually doesn't believe that people have a next life. Even if there is, they will not be the same person in the next life. But seeing a real ghost today still made Director Wang feel frightened. When they were investigating a case, they saw the pitiful bodies of the victims, and the ghosts of the victims were standing beside them. How terrifying it was. Of course people become ghosts after death, but some ghosts know what happened to them, and some ghosts are confused. I just know a little about metaphysics, and I can't bear to see those ghosts suffer injustice, so I lent a hand. Director, you are watching. I don't have any feudal superstitions, nor have I accepted bribes. This cup of milk tea was given to me by a ghost. Xieting Zhou said, and took a sip of the milk tea, which was extremely arrogant. Guo Ran and Long Liuyun looked at Xieting Zhou in front of them with admiration, thinking that Xieting Zhou was the only one who could do this in front of the director, right? And, seeing a ghost is not considered feudal superstition, then what are those witches and masters? Director Wang was also at a loss for words, knowing that there was a capable person in his own bureau, and immediately laughed. Yes, of course yours is not feudal superstition. After all, feudal superstition is fake. Yours is real. We all saw the ghost of Hong Xian appear. But Ting Zhou, you have such great ability, why do you want to come to our bureau to be an ordinary policeman? What can't you do with such ability? This is what Mao Kun and Guo Ran also wanted to ask these days. Xieting Zhou can make everyone see ghosts, which proves that his magic power is very strong. If such a person deals with rich people, wouldn't money roll in? Face the curious eyes of several people, Xieting Zhou laughed and said casually. Because it's fun, and people will rely on the police when they are alive, and the same is true for ghosts after death. I have this police uniform on me. If the ghosts have any grievances, they will naturally come to me. This is what Sietingjo thought after he had this metaphysical system. Instead of serving those rich people, it is better to do something he wants to do. Money and power are the least attractive things for Sietingjo, and being able to redress the grievances of those ghosts is what Sietingjo wants to do. Then how about I transfer you to the criminal police brigade? Director Wang is not afraid of talents in this bureau, but he is afraid of burying talents. When he heard that Sietingjo wanted to seek justice for ghosts, he immediately thought that there were more ghosts in the criminal police brigade, so he felt that he could not delay this good seedling. Sietingjo did not agree. He had not yet spent a year as an intern police officer. It was not good to transfer directly there. Even so, Director Wang patted Sieting's shoulder seriously. Comrade Xie, no matter what, you have chosen the profession of being a policeman, so we must be responsible for all the people. I hope you can use your ability to help more people, just like today, speak for the dead. We all admire you very much. It is said that forensic medicine is a profession that can make the dead speak, but if there is such a master, wouldn't it be easier for their police station to progress?